Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Blue Ridge PBS, the Virginia Department of Education, or the Virginia Society for Technology and Education.
I'm Tom Landon. On today's show, we visit Gar-Field High School in Prince William County to meet Michael Carter, the National Plumbing Teacher of the Year, who never thought he'd become a teacher while he was a master plumber. Then we meet Morgan Nooney, who was named a Visti Technology Coach of the Year for her commitment to bringing authentic technology and programming lessons to emerging learners. Coming up on this latest edition of Activated Learning.
Blue Ridge PBS, in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education and in collaboration with Visti, the Virginia Society for Technology and Education, is talking to leading educators about what gets them energized and how technology is being used to inspire student engagement. This is Activated Learning.
They're able to use it, and they were able to get the Christmas lights to twinkle. And to see their little eyes just like light up when they were able to do that. They were like, we gave it directions and it followed the directions we gave it.
Talk about your own educational experience. What were you like as a student?
Well, that's why I'm a plumber, right? I teach it like a job. So if I figure if I can get them to show up on my class on time, be prepped and ready every day, got their boots on, their glasses on, their work clothes, then that's going to help them out when they get out in the real world.
Michael Carter, welcome to Activated Learning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a treat to watch you and watch your kids here. Tell us where we are.
We are at Gar-Field High School in Prince William County, Virginia.
And this, I know this is one of your plumbing labs. Talk about your your classroom environment.
Okay. Well, I teach 80 kids. I got 3 Plum 1 classes, and I have 1 Plum 2 class. My Plum 1 class is 90 minutes every other day, and then my Plum 2 class is 3 hours every other day. So this part of the lab that we're in is where we do fixtures, tub showers, we solder, black steel threading, teach them how to work the power tools, because we're on a concrete floor, so we can't mess anything up. On the other side, that's where we do fixtures, toilets, replace toilets, repair toilets, faucets, sinks, kitchens, water heaters, quite a bit.
I can tell you from watching your kids that what kept going through my mind was, as a homeowner, I wish I knew what they already know. I had to learn all that stuff just by trial and error. But before we talk about your teaching and that kind of stuff, talk about your own educational experience. What were you like as a student?
Well, that's why I'm a plumber, right? I graduated from Osborne Park High School, 1988. My dad had his own plumbing business, so me and my brother went to work for my father. So I went to work for my dad at a young age, and when I got into high school, that's what I wanted to do. Started making money, and I started cutting grass when I was in my teens, and then when I got a little older, I started working for my father and started making better money, and then that's what I wanted to do as a plumber. So I've done that pretty much all my life for 35 plus years. And like I try to tell my students, you got to crawl before you can walk, right? And if you're going to be good at something, be the best you can be at it, right?
Right. And I was impressed by their seriousness in there. They were on task. These are your first year plumbing students. I know we're near the end of the school year, so that you've had a chance to kind of break them in, but they were really focused in there. And how is that normal for your kids?
Yeah, pretty much. I teach it like a job. So if I figure if I can get them to show up on my class on time, be prepped and ready every day, got their boots on, their glasses on, their work clothes, then that's going to help them out when they get out in the real world, because they already be prepped and ready for it. So that's how I run the class. We try to have fun, because it's all about having fun, because nobody don't want to get up every morning and don't like your job, because that's not going to come good. So you got to like what you do. And that's what I try to explain to the kids.
I read a little bit about you and how you came to teaching. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know it doesn't sound like you thought you would ever be a teacher. So how did that come about?
Well, it was funny. I worked for myself. I worked for a lot of different people. Then I had my own business for a while. Then I ended up getting hurt, had some back surgeries. So I went to work for City of Manassas as a lead plumber for the school system out there. After that, for a while, I left, went back doing my own thing again. And then I always wanted to teach. Just never really had the opportunity to do it. So, so when the chance came up where they were looking for a plumbing teacher over at Gar-Field, I applied for it. And I told my wife, I said, I don't know if I'm cut out for it or not. And she said, yeah, you are. You're good, you know. And so I came in and took a week with no pay and just sat in the classroom to see if it's something I could really wanted to do. And then after the week was up, I told them, yeah, I'd like to take the job. So then I came in, and it was really difficult the first day when I came in. I had 20 kids staring at me, and, you know, being out in a construction site all my life, then coming in here, different environment for me. So it was a little different at first, but now as the years gone by, I'm getting in a little groove, and the kids know who I am now, and I enjoy it. I really do.
Well, and speaking as a social studies teacher, you know, that first day when you look up and there's 20 kids or 30 kids or however many you're assigned, and the door closes behind you, you realize it's just you.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's just about coming in from.
That's when reality sets in.
Right.
But,
right.
you know, and it helps me out too, because I have 3 kids. So I got 2 boys that are 26 and 23, and my daughter's 17. So they're a little older. So when I come in here, I can understand the kids a little bit better.
Sure.
And it works out better for me that way. Now, if I didn't have no kids, it might be a little different, right? But patience. Got to have patience, you know. But other than that, it's really good.
Well, and also, as we were talking before we started recording, kids who go into the trades, and especially plumbing, they're going to learn an awful lot on the job. You're giving them a great foundation and giving them a huge advantage over young people who maybe haven't had this experience. But you did teaching as a plumber as well, right? Because every time you bring somebody new on.
You do. And like, you know, like I was telling you earlier, you can have 10 plumbers in a room and 5 or 6 of them's going to do something totally different. So I try to teach the kids the basics. I consider myself a really good plumber. So when I had my own business, I mean, you know, I like my letters being lined up. I like the primer being nice, you know, no runs on my copper or anything like that. Take pride in your work because that's your name on it. So that's what I teach this with my kids.
Well, and that's the same in anything. If you're teaching writing, if you're going to do something, do it right.
Yeah. You know, and sort of now my kids know that because, you know, if we do a soldering project, they'll come up and say, hey, Mr. Carter, what do you think? And I was like, you tell me what you think. I'm like, well, I got a little run here. I got this, I got that. They already know it before they bring it to me. So, you know, and I was like, well, then why would you ask me that, right? You know, and then I tell them, I was like, well, now just keep that one off to the side, do another one, see if you can make it a little bit better, right?
Sure.
Practice makes perfect. And I tell them, I said, I've done it for 35 plus years and I still mess up sometimes. And it's okay to mess up, but at certain times to mess up. And here's the place to mess up. You don't want to do something on a job site and flood somebody's house out or something like that. So I said, learn here, and it happens. You know, when I was younger, we didn't have cell phones, so we couldn't call nobody and ask for help or anything like that.
No YouTube video to show you how to do it.
You know, nowadays, like I try to explain to the kids, I said, you know, even my Plum 2 kids, they call me sometimes in the summertime saying, hey, Mr. Carter, I'm working on my toilet, and it's this, it's that. And I was like, well, FaceTime me and let me see what you got. So now you can FaceTime people and I can walk you right through it and tell you, hey, try this or do this. When I was younger, we didn't do that. It was trial and error, right? You know, and that's not too good sometimes, especially when I work for my dad, you know, or something like that. So,
well, and I noticed your patience when, you know, and I'm sure this happens every day. Student dropped a part down the drain or whatever, and there's only one solution, and that's to go get it. So one of them had to snake down there underneath.
And I tell them that from the start. And I said, look, guys, I said, if you drop something, I said, sometimes on a house or something, you can't get it. So therefore, you know, we might not have that part. So now you got to open the box up and you got to rob something from a brand new fixture. And I said, you know, that's just the way it is. I said, but here, if you drop something, the good thing is you can get it. The bad thing is you got to crawl up underneath there to get it.
Sure.
You know?
I think one of the keys to quality career and technical education is that you're actually working with the tools that they would use on the job. So whether it's power tools, whether it's soldering irons, saws, all of that. How important is it, do you think, that these kids learn on the same things you used in your career as a plumber?
Oh, it's very important. You know, I mean, now a lot of the technology is better now back than when I was their age. You know, a lot of the hand tools that we use now, they've upgraded a little bit better, but now like your channel locks and your screwdrivers and your basin wrenches, and they're all the same. It's just the technique of trying to use them. That's what's fun about trying to teach the kids, because, they got them backwards and they got them this, and I try to explain to them the proper way of using them. And that means a lot, because when they get out here in the real world, when I got companies that come in and watch my kids work, and they hire them right out of high school. And that's very important. That's what I try to tell them, because if a boss comes in from a company and they're watching my kids work and they're going to say, hey, he don't even know how to hold a pair of channel locks.
He's not wearing his safety glasses.
Right.
He's not. Yeah.
Right.
All those things that can get you in trouble.
And like the first thing we do is when I even with my Plum 2 kids, when we start the first year, like my Plum 1s this year come to Plum 2, first thing we do is OSHA. Right. Everything's about safety. Right. I've been here almost 7 years, knock on wood, and I've never sent nobody to the nurse's station. I might jinx myself saying that, right? But
I can't say that as a social studies teacher, so congratulations.
Well, and that's what I try to do. It's all about being safe. It's things going to happen on a job site. Yeah, that's why they're called accidents. But if you stay on top of it, you try to prevent that kind of stuff.
A lot of the folks I talk to on this podcast, we're largely focused on like instructional technology. You've touched on that a little bit already. Your lessons are very hands-on, but still, I'm sure there's some technology that gets employed in your course.
It is. My kids come to this class because it's a hands-on class. So everything I teach is by the code. It's through the IPC, which is International Plumbing
Thank you.
Code.
I was going to ring my buzzword bell to the IPC.
So IPC is International Plumbing Code, and that's throughout the state of Virginia. So everything I teach them is by code. It's just so much to learn in the plumbing field, and I don't have a lot of time with the kids. So I try to teach them the basics first, because that's what they need. That's important. I teach them a little bit of drawings and stuff like that, but I teach them more hand tool, power tools, fittings, how to use the power tools, the drills, sawzalls, digging with the shovels and picks and digging bars. We go outside in the woods. I make them dig a trench, make them cover it back up. Then they look at me like, "What are we doing that for, Mr. Carter?" I was like, "Well, you don't think plumbers don't do that?"
Now you know how to dig a trench.
Right. And that's what they're going to be doing when they first come out here. They're going to be helpers. So like I tell them, it's two things you're going to do when you get out of this class. Either you're going to be a helper or a advanced helper. It takes years to be a plumber. You got to learn a lot of stuff. But the difference between a helper and an advanced helper is $5 an hour, right? 16 to 20 bucks for a helper, 20, 25 for an advanced helper.
Well, and you were telling me before that, by the time, if somebody goes through the programs that are available after high school, that by the time they're 23, they could be earning
a lot of money.
What kind of money are we talking about for a kid?
$70 to $90 an hour, and $150,000 plus a year.
And a good plumber is always in demand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if you took vocational classes back when they were just called vocational classes, when you and I were in school, compared to the kind of the CTE model that we're going by now. But have you noticed any changes overall between you and your fellow career teachers here in the county?
Well, like when I was in school, we had construction class. So that involved, a little bit of masonry, a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electrical. Then they did away with it for a long time because everybody pushed college. Now a lot of kids are not going to college. Some of them can't afford it. They don't have the GPA for it. They're not interested. Trades where it's at. So now Prince William County is bringing the trades back, which is really great. I think all the high schools should do it. We're in demand. It doesn't matter if you're plumbing, electrical, HVAC, drywall, welding. If you call or look around, everybody's looking for workers. We're getting older. We're retiring. We're dying off. Younger generation's not coming up because nobody's not teaching it. Sure. So I think every county should do this, not just because I work for Prince William County, but I think that if they did that, it'd be a lot more young men and women coming up in the field, and it'd be great for everybody.
What did you have to do in order to become a certified teacher? Was there any extra schooling or anything you had to do, or is it mostly based on your professional experience?
Mostly based on my professional experience. I had to be a master plumber, which I've been at for a long time, but I had to go get my teaching license. You know, and that was really difficult for me too, because it's been a long time since I've done stuff like that. But I had to do all that. And, but basically, you know, I mean, it's taken me a long time to get to where I was at, you know. I started from the ground up. Like I tell these boys in here and my young ladies that I have in here, you got to crawl before you can walk, right? And I've already been there and done it.
So you just followed your own advice and did those things. So I'm here because you are the National Plumbing Teacher of the Year, given by the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association. If I read correctly, you're the first high school teacher in 100 years to get that award. Sir. Tell me about that and what it meant to. I know you went to Birmingham, but talk about that a little bit.
It was pretty cool, right? I won the Teacher of the Year for
Virginia,
for the state, and then they said I was nominated for the National Teacher of the Year, and I was like, I'll never get that, you know. And then it came down to where I won that too, and I was like, that's awesome, you know. I never in my lifetime thought I would ever do that, you know. I got buddies and friends of mine that I went to school with and, you know, still talk to today. They laugh at me when they found out I was a teacher, and they were like, really, you know. And then when they found out that I won Teacher of the Year and then I won the Nationals, you know, they're all really surprised, but they wasn't, because they knew the type of work that I do. And you know, and I'm really committed. When I want to do something, I just put my head down and I do it. But it was an honor. You know, like I said, I've only been teaching almost 7 years, and to win that and what I was up against, especially being the first high school teacher, that amazed me, because I didn't even know.
So that means most of the winners have been professional teachers,
tech schools, colleges,
yep,
stuff like that. So I was up against a lot of tech schools, a lot of colleges, and that's pretty good.
Nice to be honored.
It is. It is.
For sure. What do you think you're good at in the classroom?
I'm straightforward kind of guy. I call it like I see it. And my kids know that. So it's time to have a good time. It's time to work. And that's what I try to do with the kids.
Yeah. No, I'm in your classroom management. Was management by walking around, which I really like, and your kids were on task. Anything you'd like to get better at as a teacher?
Well, you can always learn everything, you know. Every year I learn it more. So like after this year, you know, summer's coming up. Through the summer, I'll be thinking about different things I can do next year, try to make the program better, make myself better as a teacher, do things a little different, you know. So I talk to other teachers sometimes and feel them out and say, hey, what do you do in a situation like this or this, and see what they do. And then I try to tweak it and do my own little thing, you know. But every year you learn. So I don't think you ever meet anybody that says, hey, I don't need to do nothing because I'm like perfect. They're
sure.
If
you
like
meet that person, you probably don't want to know.
Right.
So you changed careers as a result of an injury. You know, as you mentioned, the people in the trades, it's an older population now. Any advice or thoughts for somebody who might watch or listen to this and think, you know, I'd like to do that too? What?
Well, you know, I mean, you got to be able to work with kids and have patience. I love it. You know, I mean, I wish I'd done it a long time ago. I just never had that opportunity. So, you know, if opportunity comes by you, and hey, why not take a chance, roll the dice, right? It might work out. You might say, hey, it's not for me, and you go about doing what you're doing. If I didn't take it, I never would have known if I could do this or not. You know, the first year was probably the roughest, because I came in halfway through a school year, took over. So that was hard, because the kids didn't know what they were getting. I didn't know what I was getting and myself into. Then after that
we
year
don't
went
count
by,
that first semester against you.
Right. So after that year was over, the second year, that was a little difficult, because that was the first full year. And then after that, now what makes it nice is my Plum 2 kids are seniors. So my Plum 1 kids are juniors. So when my Plum 1s go to seniors and my new Plum 1s come in, they know each other. So the kids already know who I am before they even meet me. They already know. The kids tell them, hey, look, this is how this works in the class. You know, I make them sign a contract. The kids take it home, and their parents sign it. They sign it. You know, this is how it's got to be. This is what we do. Just like if you was going to work for a job. So you have to hold the kids accountable for stuff today. And I run a tight ship.
Yeah. Well, I could tell that, but also it didn't feel tight. It seemed like there was a lot of respect going on there. Well, I could talk to you forever because this is really interesting to me, but we do have a time limit. So, Michael Carter, just thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
For Activated Learning, I'm Tom Landon.
Thank you.
You bet.
This is Activated Learning.
Anywhere that we're building barriers, I just want to think about where we can remove them and how we can make spaces better for kids.
Many vendors have sort of realized that they should be prioritizing accessibility and usability in their tools.
Subscribe to the podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Blue Ridge PBS Echo TV.
We're here at Visti in Virginia Beach, Visti 2024, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Morgan Nooney, who is one of the Visti Coaches of the Year. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So glad to have you here. Tell me a little bit, just so we can get to know you, about kind of your journey as an educator. You could start as early as you like, or pick it up more recently.
So when I began teaching, I taught first grade for 9 years, and I loved working with little kids, and I knew that they can do so much. And then while I was teaching, I went back to school through JMU and got my educational technology degree. And then I went to Goochland, and I've been there since 2017 as an instructional technology coach at the elementary level.
That's great. And you work with Matt Cotter-Tachea, who we've spoken to on the podcast before.
Yep. He is my boss, and he's a wealth of knowledge.
One of the things that impressed me when I went to Goochland is just, it's very small, and yet that gives you guys some freedom to try some things that might be harder in a big division. Has that been your experience?
Yes. I came from a big division, so then going to a small division has been eye-opening to see how many resources we really do have, and that all of our kids are able to use all of the resources, not just targeted groups.
Right. And we do often in this program focus on, some state-of-the-art piece of equipment or software or application that, kids in very specific health careers programs or something are using. One of the things you said before we started recording was you just want to make it clear that the littles, as you elementary people refer to your children, I love that, can do a lot. That's always been your attitude, I think, but are there some things that have surprised you that little kids can do?
Yes. So I try to get into our preschool classes at least every month, and we build upon our skills each time I go in. But it was last week when I went in, we were able to code in Scratch Junior to make the Christmas tree.
And I'm just going to hit my buzzword bell, because Scratch Junior is what?
Scratch Junior is a coding platform, and it's block-based.
Okay.
Yep, and it's on the iPad.
Okay, great. So they're able to use that.
They're able to use it, and they were able to get the Christmas lights to twinkle. And to see their little eyes just light up when they were able to do that. They were like, we gave it directions, and it followed the directions we gave it.
Especially because littles, they still believe in magic, right? In a big way. So now you're sort of lifting the curtain for them.
Right. And they're starting off at such a young age that then when we're able to get up into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and do more advanced coding projects with the hummingbirds and makey and different things like that, we're able to really expand.
Right. And so do you mostly just work with the elementary?
Yes,
kids?
I am just at I'm at Goochland Elementary School. And so we have 550 kids pre-K through 5.
What was do you remember your first exposure to some sort of educational technology in the classroom?
Yes. So I grew up in Henrico County, and I was part of the first Apple desktop in the classroom. And I remember that in 2nd grade. And then when I went to high school, I was part of the first group that was 1-to-1, and we got to take our laptops home, and we thought we were the bee's knees.
When your boss, Matt, comes to you and says, got this new thing, maybe you've already been involved in the selection of that new thing, but nonetheless, it's we got this new thing, let's take it out of the box and see what we can do with it. What's your first thought when you get something like that?
My first thought is just, okay, let's see what it can do. let's see how easy it is, and then we can more so target like who we think, what grade band we think it might be good for. But coming to Visti, we've also learned a lot of other ways to expand and use simple Bebot robots with 4th and 5th graders as well.
Right.
So
what does it do for you to come to Visti, whether you come every year or every now and then?
I love coming to Visti just to get to talk with other people and find out all of the things that they're doing in their divisions and how we can tweak it. And then it's always good too to share what we're doing in Goochland, and it's also very good reassurance that, oh, we're doing the right things.
Right.
So,
well, congratulations on being named one of Visti's Coaches of the Year, and I look forward to following what you're doing with the little kids in Goochland.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Activated Learning is produced by Blue Ridge PBS in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education
and in collaboration with Visti, the Virginia Society for Technology and Education.
This podcast is hosted and produced by Tom Landon, Director of Educational Innovation, with lots of help from graphic and audio designer Jay Prater.
Additional support provided by Andy Depew in our podcast studio.
Our Vice President of Education is Dr. Rose Martin.
Special thanks to Calypso Gilstrap, Associate Director of the Office of Educational Technology and Classroom Innovation
at the Virginia Department of Education.
Our credits are read by students at Westside and Highland Park Elementary Schools in Roanoke, Virginia. If you like what you hear, subscribe to Activated Learning wherever you get your podcasts, or watch the Echo channel at blueridgepbs.org.